Southwest was just trying to be a normal airline. They just wanted to set up, some basic air service. They didn't want to dominate the skies. They didn't want to be like one of the top performing stocks of, the decade from, the early 80s to the mid 90s. That wasn't their goal, but they were prevented from copying. So if you look as an investor and you look at Southwest and compare them to a different airline, compare them to a normal airline, Southwest is doing 20 things differently, and I go through this in the book in great detail. I won't bore you with it here, but like everything from the way they boarded the planes to the type of planes they flew to the routes they flew was different. And they dominated the skies, in an industry that, Buffett jokes about the airline industry being, the worst destroyer of capital. Of course, he now owns a bunch of American, I think. But
he owns a bit of Southwest, Delta, American, United. I think he just took a slice of everything.
Yeah. Well, he's at a different level now, and the airline industry has changed a lot. But it's an interesting world to imagine Southwest dominating this little startup.
To me, this is such an important thing for an investor to be thinking about. What allows a company to dominate, like Southwest has, because here we are in this huge crisis for the airlines, and Southwest. I don't know what your take on it is, but they look to be in the most stable position by far.
Absolutely.
Compared to the other airlines out there, as they're being disrupted by something right out of the blue. Is there, and I think I got from the innovation stack that it wasn't so easy to just figure out, what's the perfect list here that I can give everyone to go out and innovate.
I would love to know how to identify an innovative company.
Where's the list, right?
Yeah.
So that was a problem, right?
Well, so there are two questions there. One is, how do you build it? Which I don't have a checklist for, but I have a process that I can describe. And the other question, which Danielle asked, is sort of a better question for investors, which is, how do I recognize somebody who has built one?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take the first question, which is, how do you build it? And the answer is essentially, you have to be in a situation where you're prevented from copying. Okay, so this is not a case of self-discipline where you should go out and say, oh, I'm going to build an innovation stack and therefore I'm not going to copy all the stuff that everyone else knows works. No, dude, if it's working, that's the thing you do. What you need to do, which is really uncomfortable, is put your company into a market where there are no products, where there is nothing. And in the case of Southwest, there was no cheap service in Texas. There were these, Brandis and Texas International had these very expensive routes, and Southwest said, we're going to fly, our neighbors and friends around, for $19. And that was unheard of. So they had to do everything differently. They were forced to innovate. So I've not found a situation where innovation is a first choice.
Right.
So that's
what is the first choice?
Well, the first choice is to copy. Find something that works and copy it.
But what's the first choice to make a decision you're going to go after this in the first place? Why? What am I trying to do when I'm trying to go after something like this that I decide, okay, I'm going to copy somebody? Why? Why am I doing that?
Well, so it comes down to the problem that you're trying to solve. If you're trying to solve a problem and you care about the problem, who cares if the solution is original thought or a copy?
Right.
Like if your focus is on the problem, not on the process, then the best solution is usually find somebody else who's done it and do what they did.
So Herb is trying to figure out how the problem is. People can't fly if they don't have a lot of money.
Right.
Basically, and I'm going to solve that problem. This is kind of how you see him going at it.
Yeah. So Herb, when he and the team at Southwest did was they said, well, we want to give low fares. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to have to fly to cheaper airports, so our landing fees are lower, and we're going to have to get more seats on the plane. So we're going to dispense with this first class and coach service. We're going to have one type of service on the plane, and we're going to board our planes differently. We're going to board them in batches so that you don't have assigned seats, so you can get people on and off the planes faster. And we're going to turn our planes faster, and we're only going to fly 737s because that way, if one of our flights gets disrupted, the crew can go to another plane. Whereas, United, they've got 14 different types of airplanes, and every pilot has to have a separate type rating, i.e., 2 months of training every year on each plane. Well, if you're type rated on 6 planes, you basically don't ever work as a pilot because you're constantly retraining. I mean, it's that sort of stuff. And all the stuff that Southwest did was in service of this goal of making air travel affordable for other people. So they didn't serve meals. So they had a different reservation system. So, I mean, again and again and again, they did something differently. And what happened was these things interrelated with each other and created what I call an innovation stack, which allowed Southwest to basically dominate the skies pretty much absolutely. If you look at their stock performance during Herb's tenure, the stock was just one way. It was straight up. Once the new management took over and abandoned their low pricing strategy, they sort of lost that domination. But it was a tremendous strategy and a great investment thesis. So let's take Danielle's question, which I thought was a great question, which is, how do you invest for this? And I think as a public sector investor, it's difficult because by the time a company goes public, the innovation stack is already pretty much baked. So Square's innovation stack was set within, I would say, 6 or 7 months, maybe a year to really get everything fine-tuned. And after that, it's been sort of, incremental refinement. But then what we did was we went out on the market 5 years later. Now, if you bought Square at that, you would have, I don't know what the stock is right now, but I mean, it's
I think it's 50 something, 53.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a 5x increase over the IPO, and it has been as high as a 10x increase over IPO. It's been done very, very well. And the innovation stack still protects us because we have not abandoned a lot of the elements that preserve it. So if you see a company that's doing something fundamentally different, and you could not point to just 1 or 2 things, but 10 things that they do differently, that's a company you invest in.
That's the feature of the stack, right? Is it's not just one thing, it's not just 2 things, it's not just iterating, doing something better than everybody else. It's really doing 15 to 20 things completely differently.
Yes.
And I think that's what's so unique about this book and why this thing is its own world for entrepreneurs. I've never read a book like this that would lay out entrepreneurship in these sort of stark terms. And for me as an investor, it lays out these different innovation stacks. That's what I love about it, Jim, is you not only just took Square's stack, but you took the 3 other stacks as well and laid them out there because they have similarities and they have differences.
Yeah, look, I mean, nobody wants to read my memoir. I mean, I'm just a guy. Nobody cares about me. What they care about is the company I founded, or co-founded, I should say. But even then, who cares, right? It could just be a lucky one shot, right? What I was interested in was a pattern. And if there was a pattern, then it's worth discussing. And what I found was, in fact, there was a pattern. It's just really rare. Like it's really rare. And so rare that you can go your whole life and never notice it. And which is what I'd done because, I was 50 years old when I started writing this book. I'd seen this pattern my whole life. It took me 3 years of solid research. And I had a lot of resources at my disposal, but it took me 3 years to figure out what the hell was going on and that it wasn't just this accident. And the only reason that happened was because I accidentally stumbled upon this in the creation of Square and accidentally had this epiphany when we survived the Amazon attack. Because when we survived the Amazon attack, look, when Amazon copies your product, undercuts your price by 30%, which is the number they always undercut your price with, you die.
Yeah.
That is a 100% accurate statement, except in one company's case, which is Square's. And having lived through it at Square, I had the additional insight that we didn't do anything differently. So the amazing thing about Square's response to Amazon was you would think, oh, we just, got into our bunker and came up with a plan and executed our plan brilliantly. That wasn't what happened. We went into our bunker and we're like, what the heck can we do? Like, what do companies do when they're attacked by Amazon? And the answer is they die. Like that was the answer. You just go ahead and pick out the tombstone. And it was like, well, maybe instead of just dying, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. And it worked. Like, we didn't do anything differently. And it's amazing that strategy worked. And I was like, what the hell's behind this? So I happened to find this pattern and then do all this research. And I was like, oh my God, this wasn't an accident. It's just this really rare thing.
And this thing that protected you, this is the stack.
The innovation stack. Yes.
Thing. It's a stack. You guys, if you enjoyed this video and you feel it was valuable in teaching you more about how to invest, hit the like button and please share the video with your friends. And if you want more investing content, subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the button on the screen. We got a free gift for you. Thanks again for watching.